Hi folks, hope you're doing well. It's just gone 20 past 10 on the 13th of the 5th, 2020. Oh, there you go. It's not been a bad day today. It's been pretty good. Weather's been okay. That's good. Oh, indeed. Anyway, to talk about today, what do we talk about today? There's an awful lot of stupidity around. That's one thing. So we can talk about that a little bit. The unwise people, I think. What do we call this? The unwise people, yeah. I'm going to talk about a few other things as well towards the end. Certainly one thing that makes me laugh every time I think about it, this situation about relationship, the lady I like, etc., and whether that's God's will or not, etc., etc. I'll cover that first, actually, as I'm talking about it now. Anyway, that's an interesting one because, of course, because of the Rona, it means I've not been to that Christian thing for a long time now. I think it was January would have been the last one. And I don't think she was there that day. Not sure, though, because there was someone who looked similar sitting at a table that I then went to sit at. But it's quite dark at that point in time, so yeah. And we didn't speak. But at one point we were asked to join hands, and I held this lady's hand for a short while until someone else came in. And I'm like, oh, great. If this is a woman, yeah, holding hands could be an important point. And then someone else comes in and says, oh, I'm going to get in the middle here. Yeah, okay. Okay, as you do. But yeah, I mean, I've spoken to God about it. Yeah, when I take my dogs out at night, that's when I really speak to God more about things than I normally would do during the day. Of course, I'm walking around the park with my dogs, so therefore there's time, and it's at that time that I normally speak to God. But even if I speak to God about that situation earlier on during the day, it's weird because I've got from God or from when I pray about the situation, when I seek God on the situation, that could be even on the same day. I hear the voice saying, she's not your wife. Then, yeah, an hour or so later, she's going to be your wife. Then maybe next time, she's not going to be your wife. And then she's going to be your wife. So, of course, when I go out and speak to God about things, I say, Lord, I need you to be a bit more straightforward here. Because, if it's you saying one of these things, either she's not or she is, I need you to be clear. I need to know it's you. I need to know it's you saying this. And every single time. And it's every single time. It's weird. Last night, I was speaking to God about the whole thing. And as I was walking around, in a bit more detail about things. I can't remember exactly what I was talking to God about. A lot of the things I've spoken here about, actually, I was talking to God about last night. And when I got in the car, turned the key, radio come on. The song I Don't Care by Ed Sheeran, which he's speaking about that he's with this woman who is the perfect fit for him, the one made for him. That he's in this environment which he doesn't like, which he feels incredibly uncomfortable by, to the point where he just wants to run out the door. But because she's there, he don't care. He doesn't care about that situation anymore because she's there. When she's there, nothing else matters. And if that wasn't enough, after that song, there's a song called So Amazing by Luther Vandross. Oh, for goodness sake. But it happens every time. Every time I speak to God about it. and I get these two differing opinions. Next time I go out to the car, it's that sort of song that comes on the radio. It's like, okay, that seems to be saying that God's saying she is going to be, because the music is saying that. The music is basically saying that. So it's like, right, okay. Well, there's a long way to go before any of that can be properly confirmed, but I just thought that's an interesting point to share, because quite often, as I say, it's weird, but God can confirm what He said through a song or through a bit of writing in the book, or where someone sends you a text and it's an obscure text, but it speaks right into that very situation. And when it happens all the time, it's like, okay, well, I should stop asking the questions, really. Yeah, I seem to be keep on getting the same answer, or the same answers, and then followed by the same sort of songs. So it's like, but there you go. There's the answers, I suppose. But yeah. Well, we'll move on to the proper subject. All this unwise stupidity that's going on. There's talk now about opening back up things from this lockdown, and that's very tricky indeed. I mean, wisdom is certainly needed with regards to this stuff, because the death rate in a lot of countries is not zero. Like where I'm in the UK, the death rate yesterday was 600 and something. Today it's nearly 500. So it's not really gone down that much. New cases still 3,000 yesterday. America's looking at open up. They've had 17,000 new cases, 1,514 new deaths yesterday. Crazy. And that's with people being locked down. What happens when you unlock things? I mean, they're talking about sending kids back to school, but they're saying people have now been basically persuading themselves that children aren't carriers of this disease. I mean, initially we were told they were. They could get it, but they wouldn't necessarily have bad conditions, and if one gets it in a school, of course all the rest are going to get it. They're going to pass it. That's why they had that thing where they were telling people to stay away from grandparents. Keep kids away from grandparents. For 5 weeks, they kept kids away from grandparents. Now, people are believing that kids aren't carriers of this thing, aren't incubators of it. But one thing is, you tell us one thing, then you tell us something else later. Make your mind up and stop changing the story based upon what you want to do. That is out of order. I find things weird. I really do. There's some weird stuff. I mean, the idea of opening things up, having people go back to work, but then, not in the UK, they're saying we shouldn't be using public transport. Well, in the end, you don't want people using public transport because they're gathering to a certain degree. But then you want people going into shops, into banks, into factory conditions, into other working conditions. And that's fine. You want plumbers to go back to work. You want carpenters and electricians and painters and decorators be going into people's homes and doing work in people's homes and different people's homes. Well, if you're still getting 3,000 cases, new cases each day, that's in the UK. In Russia, 10,000 new cases. But Russia are lying through the teeth, right? Because Russia was saying they've had, yesterday 96 deaths, but 10,000 new cases. Serious and critical cases for Russia, 2,300. But they've got total cases now, not cases that have been solved already, but cases now, 242,000, but only 2,300 serious stroke critical. You have to say there's lies there. They're lying through their teeth. Same as China. You can't believe a word that comes through the mouths of these countries. Because they lie. We know they lie. You know, France is doing better. Italy is doing better now. Spain is doing slightly better. They're still getting cases. They're still getting deaths, but nowhere near what they did. UK has gone past Italy now. It's gone past France with total death rate. And it's gone past Spain as well. The only nation ahead of the UK, the only country ahead of the UK with more deaths is America. Still, when you look at the UK, the total recovered is NA, not applicable. How is it not applicable? No other country has NA next to any of the information. They have a blank space. France, new cases, blank. Because they probably had some, but they haven't quite figured it out yet, so therefore it's blank. Yeah, China, new deaths, blank. Not NA. NA is so dismissive. It's just saying, don't ask. We've got no good news for you, so just don't ask. It's like, well, excuse me, 33,000 people have died. How many have actually survived? How many have recovered? How many people that have actually gone to the NHS and says, I believe I've got symptoms of this virus, I may need assistance in a hospital, have actually recovered? In other countries, the recovery rate is pretty decent. In the UK, the recovery rate is awful. Absolutely awful. There you go. It is what it is. It's difficult, as I say. Open up. You've got to try and open things back up again, obviously. And the problem is that you can't really get kids back. Sorry, you can't really get parents back to work if kids aren't back to school. Yeah, because who's going to look after the kids when their parents go back to work? Yeah, quite obviously that's a problem because parents can't exactly go back to work if their kids are at home. So I think that's why there's a push for children to go back to school, because they're desperate to get people back to work because they want the economy to start rolling again. Because obviously it won't mean most countries, but especially those countries like the UK has had this, how do you pronounce it, austerity situation where basically the rich people got us in a mess. So they bail the rich people out and then they take money off the poor to try and balance the books. So they basically whip the poor because the rich got us into trouble. And so they've been doing that over the last sort of 6-7 years, and now they're saying austerity is going to get a damn sight worse because now they've got to pay for this lockdown. Because during the lockdown, they made sure that anyone who was self-employed was able to live, able to pay a mortgage or pay rent or buy food and pay their bills, which is all fair. Let's be honest. People that are self-employed should be able to do that stuff, of course. But it's got to be paid for. Now, who's going to have to pay for it? The rich? It'd be the poor. It'd be the poor that are smacked. Again, it'd be benefits that get cut. It would be, they're already talking about public sector pay has to be cut. It was already cut. They cut it for the point of austerity. They made sure they cut it because they knew it was important to cut it. As I say, they were saying, even at the point of austerity, this utter stupidity. And it was the good question. I think it was the Conservative government. I'm not sure, but I think it was Conservative government. It was Cameron, who was in charge, I do believe, who was coming out with this utter nonsense. That the public sector were doing very well, but the private sector was struggling. So let's cut the public sector to make it easier on the private sector. That's what they were saying. That was their motive for cutting the public sector. Now, there's a lot of stupidity in it. If you want to even out the public sector and the private sector, and you want the economy to do well, then make sure the private sector are paid more. Bring their pay up to the same level as the public sector. Because most people, certainly unless you are incredibly rich, what money you get, you will spend in the country that you live in. So therefore, you are the ones who boost the economy of your country. The rich don't boost the economy of your country. Because generally speaking, they will spend their money abroad. Yeah, there's certain countries that do very, very well from the rich. Generally speaking, it's not the countries that they live in. Because most countries don't build fancy yachts, don't build the incredibly fancy cars, and don't have the sort of living conditions that Saudi Arabia has. So unless you're born in Saudi Arabia, and you're rich there, in which case a lot of your money is going to go towards your own country, because when you buy property, or the expensive property in Saudi Arabia or those sort of areas, they cost a lot of money. But I think they pay a lot less tax. So a lot of the money doesn't go back to their own country anyway. Because I imagine a lot of that property, the most expensive stuff, belongs to people who live in China. Chinese countries or Chinese companies, or even the Chinese government would own a lot of those companies because money. It makes them a huge amount of money. And money's the thing, isn't it? People want money. So the wise move, if you want the economy to grow, you've got to give money to the poor, because the poor people are going to spend money in your country. They may actually book to go abroad for a summer holiday or stuff like that, which is quite often the case. But even if they do that, they often book through a company online, or whether it's in the high street, which is from the country that they live in. But when they spend money, generally speaking, they will buy stuff from the local high street, which is always putting money back into the country when you buy from the local high street. Because, now it is a case that, I'm not wealthy in any way, shape or form. But it's easier if I can buy stuff locally, I will do. If I have to buy stuff online, then I have to wait for it to be delivered. I can't get on with using that for a few days until it's delivered. And things can take a long time to be delivered. So if I can get it locally, then I would do. But generally speaking, things like computer stuff. If I buy computer stuff, there's so much more variety online than there is in shops locally. And if you go into shops locally, you've got something called PC World, which is a British store. But PC World no longer have anything to do with PCs at all. Nothing. You can't buy computer parts in there. Not desktop PCs. You can't buy anything for a desktop PC in PC World now. You can buy a few laptops, but that's about it. It's TVs, it's that sort of stuff now. It's called, I think, Curry's PC World. It's a split between the two. But there's no desktop computer stuff there at all now. And that really is it. You have computer repair shops, but I did a video about them recently. Never heard back from them. I mean, they should have offered to at least refund me the £70 that they charged me for putting on a Windows 10 that was completely and utterly useless. I had to replace immediately. They should have refunded me back the £70 for that, but they never did. No surprise. No surprise at all. Yeah, as I say, so therefore I buy stuff online. Now, if I could buy it locally, yeah, I would do, of course, because you get it quicker. Plus, you're supporting your local town, your local high street. And, your local high street would do better. There are better quality shops if you were buying stuff locally. But we see that isn't the case. And part of the reason why it isn't the case is because the variety isn't there. The sort of shops that we used to have years ago, these massive, great big stores in the local high street, we don't have them anymore. Some places will. You go to London, you'll have them. Major cities will have them. New York, London, those sort of places will have that sort of stuff. But most towns and cities don't. Because they can't afford to. Those companies can't afford to set up in these smaller towns and cities because they won't get enough money coming in. And that's because even they can't really offer the same level of choice that the internet can. Go on eBay or whatever. So we're going to get with this, and we've got the election coming soon in America. That's October. And again, we've got this situation where I made a video recently about the left and about how Trump will most likely win because the left is trying to play it nicely. And you can't really do that. You've got to be incredibly clever if you're going to play it nicely. If you're going to be honourable and you're going to be nice and you're going to be decent, you're going to be not saying anything that could be considered as nasty. Yeah. You've got to be incredibly clever. And the thing of it is that people just aren't that. They're not that clever. And in the Republican Party, they're now allowing all this distraction with this woman who accused Biden of trying to touch her up in the 70s, it was? 90s, possibly 90s. But a long time ago now. And they're playing the game, the Democratic Party. They're saying this should be investigated. What they should really be saying is, why on earth has this woman waited this long? What's going on here? She's playing the game, this woman. There's no reason at all for her to wait this long unless she's someone that Trump has, or Trump's people have put there to make these complaints against Biden. Because the timing just sucks completely. That there's something going on more than that. But again, as I say, the Democratic Party They're all for trying to cut off their own heads, so they can claim to be the moral party. Which claiming to be the moral party is utter stupidity. It doesn't help in any way, shape, or form. It just means you're going to lose. When you think about it, look at who they've got going for them. Biden. Biden is an old man who seems to forget most of the time, who seems as if he could be incredibly forgetful. He comes across as one of these doddery old men that, it'd be amazing if he's still alive in 5 years' time. And instead of building him up, they're building this woman up who's attacking him. It was fine for Obama. Obama went against two lots of Republicans who were ridiculous, who would never get in. I mean, you had the, what was he? The Mormon chap? Can't remember what his name was. No, I've lost it for a second. But the Mormon chap, he was the first person that Obama went against for the presidency. No, it's just beyond me, his name. But then next time round, it was, again, I forgot his name now. The chap who's recently died, the war veteran. Which, of course, if it had been the war veteran and the war veteran had picked a better candidate to be the possible vice president, I think he could have beaten Obama. It's just that he picked Sarah Palin. Now, Sarah Palin made absolutely certain Obama would win. Because the amount of stupidity she came out with, she was like a mini Trump or female Trump, where she come out with the most stupid stuff all the time. Yeah, pretty lady, attractive lady, but my God, there was something going wrong in her head. She was a couple of tree houses missing from a tree house, basically, in her head. McCain, that was it. That was the one who was a war hero, yeah. Yeah, he's passed now. So, I mean, he could be in heaven, that chap. He seemed like a nice fella. He did. He seemed like he was honourable. He stood up against the nastiness of his own party. He had some honour about him, and you could see it quite possible that he would have been a child of God. So I don't know. I don't know his personal walk with God at all. If he had one, I have no idea. Yeah. And so, now the situation with Biden, we don't know who Biden's going to choose to be his running partner. We have no idea. But we're looking at October is when the election is going to happen. As I said, the Democratic Party have got so much to think about, because they've got to try and make sure that all the people that want to vote can vote. And the Democratic Party is going to try and make sure that all the people that want to vote, that won't vote for them, don't get a chance to vote. Not all of them. They can't stop every person that wants to vote against them. But there's certainly a case where they can stop quite a few. The way they do the boundaries is quite ingenious when you think about it. It's nasty ingenious, but it's still ingenious. They make sure that certain voters, often black voters, but certainly Democratic voters, are disenfranchised completely. That where you had a situation where the Democrats always win, the Republicans get the win, and then they carve up the territory in such a way that the Democratic vote has no power because of the way the lines are drawn. And as I say, it's ingenious. It really is. And there's not an awful lot the other party can do unless they win. Then they can change the boundaries to make it fairer for people. But I guess if the Democratic Party win, then they're going to change it in the opposite direction to make sure that Republicans don't stand much chance of winning. So they'll just be playing the same game. But Democrats have got that to focus on. So focusing on this woman is stupidity. They really are trying to limit their chances of winning. All right, it's going to be interesting. I will have some more puppies due in about 8 weeks now. Well, 9 weeks. Because Border Collie has mated again. Usually she only mates with Chewie, but I've tried to encourage Riley to get in there and have a go this time, because when Amber comes into heat again, I want Riley to be the one mating with Amber, because that way I can get Chewie and Mollie done to stop from having pups. Because Mollie's 6 years old, Chewie's coming up to 6 years old. I don't want to push them too much further, because the older they get, the more chance that they will, if they're pups, the pups could be deformed. So I don't want to go anywhere near that. So again, that means that if Riley isn't mating with Amber, then I need to get Amber done as well, and Riley at the same time. Whereas if Riley's mating with Amber, then Amber can mate for a bit longer, because she's only 3. Or I think she's coming up to 4. She'll be 4 this year. So with Riley, so they've got another 3 years where they can mate. Whereas Mollie really has got another year and a bit. Really, same as Chewie. So yeah. And also with Amber, the reason why I want Riley to mate with Amber is because so far out of Amber's litters, there have been no pups with any ginger, any red hair at all. She's a red and white collie. And it'd be nice to see if Riley is the father instead of Chewie, whether any of the pups can be red and white. Because that would just be lovely to have some red and white little pups. Yeah, we've had all black and white so far. Because, of course, Mollie is black and white. Lucy, who had puppies first, she's black and white. So Amber is red and white. So it'd be nice to have some red and white pups. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. So, but Riley's mated with Mollie now 3 times. He seems to have figured out what he's got to do. Oh, he does. He really does. Because like, Chewie's been doing it for ages. If I leave Chewie and Mollie outside, I can look out and 10 minutes later, they still haven't done it. You know, Chewie's still playing around a bit. Whereas with Riley, I look outside 2 minutes later after leaving him and her out, Riley and Mollie out there, and they're already joined. So they've already done it and then they're stuck together. So he's figuring it out now. So it's good. So when it comes to Amber, I'll leave him and Amber out there. And yeah, hopefully. Because last year I tried it. I left Riley and Amber out there and Ray just couldn't figure it out. And then I took pups for a little walk, and then I was telling Chewie to leave Amber alone because I wanted Riley to be the one. And then a second later, I turned around. Next minute, they were going at it and joined. And it's like, oh, for goodness sake. So therefore, Chewie's going to be the dad of the pups. Right, okay. Indeed. There you go. We'll see what happens this time. But anyway, with regards to the virus, again, all I'll say is if you have to go back to work, or if you're being a bit more relaxed and going into places where there's more people now, just try and keep your distance. Certainly if you see someone coughing, back away. Try and get them to back away. If you touch something, still wash your hands, because again, someone had the virus, not know it, be spreading it around. So beware. Most people that get it will have mild conditions, but there's enough people that get it that have really bad conditions and pass and die. So therefore, you don't want to be doing that through relaxing too much. So be aware of that, folks. Yeah, be wise and be safe. These are all things that you can get past and get sorted really, really quickly. All right. I mean, it can go bad very quickly. I think we're going to be in this situation of having to be careful for probably a good 4 months, most likely. I mean, they're talking about bringing football back and bringing all these other things back that are potentially some things that could make a massive second wave of the virus that'd be far, far worse than the first wave. And if that happens, then what you do, because you've got to lock down people and lock them down for a lot longer, lock them down until there's no new cases, until there's no deaths, until there's no sign of the virus. So you're looking 6 months. Complete utter lockdown. How on earth do you cope with that as a country? Because it means you've really got no money coming in. None at all. The only money you've got coming in is from your shops that sell food, your shops that are counted as essential. That's the only money that's being generated where people are spending money. So with that being the case, petrol stations as well, but that's not enough, anywhere near enough to keep a country afloat. And if you're still trying to say that we make sure that people who are self-employed, or you can furlough payments to people, therefore the government will step in and make those payments. You can't do that for 6 months. There's no way, shape, or form. You'll never recover. You have to declare bankruptcy as a country. Simple as that. And you'll have all these countries doing exactly the same. Yeah, bad news. Certainly, you don't want to be the only country to really go through that, because you're incredibly weak after that. So it's got to be done right. Wisdom is needed, and I mean the problem is that in the UK we don't have a leader who anyone would describe as wise. In America, they certainly don't have a leader that anyone would describe as wise. And other nations are doing better. The problem is, during the time at the moment where we've got lockdown, you can't move to these other nations. You're stuck in the nation you're in. So we have to hope that God can find some way of speaking to the leaders and helping the leaders to make the right decisions, because so far the decisions that the leaders have been making has been quite awful. And so, yeah. Anyway. It is what it is, folks. I think it's quite likely that the election will take place, and certainly in October, I think it'll either be the same lockdown or there'll be a new lockdown at that point in time. So how on earth that's going to happen, I don't know. I say this is where I say the Democratic Party has a lot more to focus on than this woman. They should not be investigating this woman's complaints and this woman's claims. They should not be investigating. They need to focus on making sure this election in October happens. Because as a country, you need to make sure that happens. And so the Democratic Party have a responsibility to do that. They seem to be shirking that a bit. They need to make sure they don't shirk it. Keep your eye on the ball. As a Democratic member, your eye should be on the ball of making sure Trump loses that next election in October. That come November, he's out. He should be out in November. That has to be your priority. Any other priority than that right now means you're going to lose. Because Trump will still be the president, and he will have another 4 years to do whatever damage he sees fit. I was just watching a video before doing this about the damage that Trump is doing. That by his border wall, which is nowhere near the wall that he was describing that he was going to build, but anyhow, it's destroying a lot of sacred native burial sites. And not just that, but the wildlife are being damaged and possibly destroyed by it as well. Yeah, there's a lot of damage being done by this wall. And of course, Trump doesn't care. He just wants to build some sort of wall to say that I did it. Yeah, there's my wall. I just guarantee you one thing. If Trump has 4 more years, he won't be honest about the amount of people still coming in from Mexico, even once he's got his wall completed. Most of the people coming in will still come in because they don't come in over a wall. They'll find their way in. Of course they will. But he will lie about that because they got to, because they spent all this time and money and waived all these sacred laws to build a wall. So they're not going to be honest about whether the wall is effective or not. So, yeah. Democrats, you need to focus on winning and getting Trump out. Get Trump out, then have an investigation. Make sure that Joe Biden has a person fit for presidency as vice president, as his vice president. So if he needs to be removed for whatever reason, if he's been done something out of order in the past and he needs to be removed, someone is there who's going to be able to do the job. I mean, you always thought when Obama was the leader, if something happened to Obama, America would be in big trouble with Biden. You always thought that. You look at Biden walking around the White House, and whenever he was at some sort of press conference, he was always quite touchy with people, quite freely, like the weird old grandpa. You want this person to perhaps be president? Really? It looks very much that the powers that be are saying they want Trump to have another 4 years. Although I have to say, who else did the Democrats have? Honestly, who could have done a better job? No one really. They had how many? 30-odd candidates at one point. A huge number of candidates. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the problem with that is when you've got so many candidates, it means that the focus is on the wrong people most of the time. It's stupid having so many candidates to start. It's very unwise. There you go. It is what it is. They've ended up with Biden. It'll be Joe Biden versus Trump. And, yeah. I think Trump's people are willing to do whatever it takes to win. Biden's people aren't. They're willing to do whatever it takes to commit political suicide. And so I think it's probably going to be Trump who's going to win this next one. It looks like it right now, even though he's struggling in the polls right now. But he was struggling in the polls beforehand, before the last election, or during the last election. It looked as if Clinton would absolutely smash him in the election. That was right even on the day of the election, but he still won. Although, yes, he didn't win the vote, really. He got less votes than she did. But the way the system works, he got more of the right votes than she did. So, yeah. Time will tell, I think. Time will tell. Time will tell what happens with that situation. But yeah, there's enough stupidity with regards to this vote and the way people are reacting to it, and with regards to the Democratic Party and how they're dealing with stuff. But see, it's like, well, my opinion is, stop moaning about Trump. If you can vote, if you're American, then stop moaning about Trump and what he's doing and all this crap and what he's saying. Make sure you vote when you can. Yeah, whenever there's a vote, make sure you vote. Get out there. Get other people voting. Make sure other people are aware that even the smallest elections matter. Even if you're voting for a mayor, if you get a Republican mayor, chances are you're going to get a Republican senator. And then a Republican, the other thing. What's the other thing? You got the Senate and you've got the other thing. Congressman, yeah. So you can have a congressman or a congressperson that's Republican, a senator that's Republican, and a mayor that's Republican. And then as a city or a town, you're absolutely screwed if you're a Democrat. So get out there and vote. You know, if you want to even limit what Trump can do, you need to make sure that both houses are Democrat. Then maybe you can rein him in a bit, at least. If you can't win the election, you can at least rein him in. So get out and vote whenever you can. You take care. Have a good week. It's only Wednesday today, so we've got a few days to go. Oh, and yes, my debit card had to be cancelled today because in April somebody tried to use my card, apparently. And so I wasn't able to use it to make big payments, and I phoned up today to find out why. And that was why. So they've now cancelled that card. And then I went down to the shop afterwards, and then realised when I got to the shop that I didn't have my card because, of course, I'd always had that card in my pocket because that's my debit card for my bank account. So that's the card for that bank account. So I knew I had money in the bank account, but of course, it was now a situation where there wasn't anything I could do. I just had to go home again, get another card, a credit card, and go back down to get what I wanted, get what I needed to get, which was annoying. But yeah, in about 3 or 4 days' time, I'll get another card, which then means I've got to put everything back in. And I was trying to buy a new graphics card for my PC because at the moment it's annoying. Previously, when I had it running before with Windows 7, I was able to have the sound going through the amp and not have the projector on, but still have the sound going through the amp. Or sometimes I could turn the projector on and then I'd have the image on both the projector and the TV screen. But I'd only have the things I wanted on the projector. So if I was suddenly going to watch a movie or a sport event, I could put it on projector so I could have it on big screen. Whereas now with this new graphics card that the IT Central place suggested, and using Windows 10, I can't do that. To have sound going through have my computer going through my amp, sound-wise, I've got to have the projector turned on all the time. Which, of course, when it's hot, anyway, weather-wise, it gets incredibly hot in this room. So I thought, right, let's try and get another graphics card then. So I bought one, and I've not been able to pay for it. Because of someone trying to use my card, they kept on blocking any big payments. So it's like, right, that's really useful. So I'm going to have to find a way to be able to pay that in a different way now, I suppose. Which is annoying. Anyway, right. You take care. God bless, and I will speak to you soon. I imagine the car situation will be sorted out by then, unless there's anything to bring. There's not been anything recently. No, not recently. So I'll bring stuff when I've got stuff to bring. Right. You take care. God bless. Bye-bye.